Hi everyone, thanks for coming out on such a chilly night. I'm excited to have really great conversations with folks about immigration and everything. So again, my name's Lea Ramirez. So I am actually 1199 SEIU union member at the Legal Aid Society. I'm a paralegal. And I'm also a member of the International Socialist Organization. So I'm just going to speak to you about some of the work that I've been doing as a union member in particular, because again, it's one of those things that when we look at immigration, we also have to realize immigrants are also workers as well, and they're very diverse, and people don't live single issue lives, right? So I think that's really important to take into account. So some of the work that I've been involved in as a union member has been initiatives around ICE out the courts. So we have a number of clients who've been afraid of actually appearing for court hearings, whether it be filing an order of protection against an abuser, or showing up to court for a traffic violation, or just whatever it is. ICE has been basically outside of the courthouses. So some of the things that have been happening are public defenders and the criminal practice of the legal aid. They've actually done walkouts and protest of the ICE being in the courts. And there's been a number of rallies that have taken place. Just recently, the Democratic Socialists of America, they've been doing a lot of door knocking and gathering petitions. I think they had over 3,000 petitions signed by people demanding that ICE not be allowed on the courts. And they actually had an action where they delivered them to the Chief Justice in New York, who has the authority to be able to not allow ICE in the courts. And so one of the things that we've done, and this is through our own union workers, right? It's through paralegals, attorneys, and I think that's really important, right? Because we recognize that we have coworkers who are also affected, right? Who are on DACA, TPS, and we also have our clients as well. And some of the other things that we've been doing have been around just some more union stuff. There's been fights by Teamsters in order to make a sanctuary union, so that's also resolutions have been passed. Basically that means that the union will not collaborate with ICE or let people, just basically know your rights in the workplace and not working with ICE. And I also, another legal aid worker for Mobilization for Justice. She's a paralegal. She was actually able to pass a resolution in her union for DACA recipients. Basically, that means when, for example, someone's work authorization expires, that the union will work with that individual, right? Because it's not their fault that they were given temporary status and they're in limbo. So some of that is severance, some of that is just they'll hold their job. So there's all these number of things that as workers, as union members, that we feel that we're thinking about doing and being able to stand in solidarity, right? That's really important. And then a case that we actually organized around, we actually worked, it's a pretty famous case if you're in New York City, if you were in New York City and you watched the news, you probably heard about it. It was the Pablo Villavicencio case. He was a pizza delivery guy that was picked up in Brooklyn at the Fort Hamilton military base, and he was there to deliver a pizza, and he used his NYC ID, right? And I know hopefully this, we can talk a little bit about this, because Pablo isn't the first person who has been detained by ICE for using the NYC ID. And the way it was actually rolled out to people was that it would be a way for immigrants, especially people who don't have status, to be able to access library, be able to open certain bank accounts or certain accounts, pick up their children from school without someone knowing their status, right? And they rolled it out. So there's been some issues with that, and there's current campaigns. I know Make the Road, they've been trying to push driver's license for all. There's a number of people who've been doing that work. So I would definitely look into that. And one of the things that we did is there's a community organization that was in the neighborhood that Pablo was picked up called Bay Ridge for Social Justice. And they're just like a local community group. They're very similar to the Jackson Heights Immigrant Solidarity Network. They do a lot of, basically to be able to, they're located in Bay Ridge, and so they just want to be able to like focus around a lot of issues that have been happening in Bay Ridge. And they end up doing a protest at the military base after Pablo was detained, and basically reached out to a lot of council members, and there was all this actions that were happening and public media that Pablo received, and throughout that process, I came to find out, along with some other union members, that the Legal Aid Society, our immigration unit, was actually representing Pablo. And so we were thinking, like, what are ways that we can actually organize around his case to like stop his deportation, especially like as union members. Like I said, Pablo was picked up at where he was doing his job, right? And also we have people who are on DACA, TPS, like this affects our communities. And so what we did was we actually called a meeting, and we had an organizing meeting about like what are some ways that we can raise the case around Pablo's deportation. And he was able to get an emergency stay, and this was in the summer, so this was like around the whole like the separated children and like the Keep Families Together march that happened in New York. So that was also a really great opportunity to be able to talk to people about how, because right now when we're talking about families being separated, right, at the border, we also have to recognize how they're also being separated, in different ways as well, right? Of like people being detained in ICE detention centers, and just like historically how people have had to leave their home to find to find jobs and work. So that was something that was a really great initiative. We were able to like reach out to folks. We had organizing meetings, and again, we came together as people from all different groups and trying to figure out the best way. A lot of it was just like doing like a rally. We had a rally, and then for Pablo's court case, his final hearing, we were actually able to pack the courthouse, which was really great. And when there was an overflow room, and it was like one of those things where it's like the attention was on that judge, right, to be able to make a decision that was just. And he even said himself, I think one of the quotes was like about how he was there and he was just like, this doesn't make sense. Because Pablo, like he has family here, he's married, like a citizen wife, 2 citizen children. So again, it's one of those things where he just didn't understand like why ICE is focusing on detaining this man. And so he was actually able to win his case, and he's applying for his green card. He's like awaiting that. So I think that's a really great win, and I think it also just shows the importance of being able to organize collectively, especially around deportation cases, right? Because it seems like, and also to recognize that people, they don't have to be like this like model, like, because I think something that comes up again and again is this idea of like a model immigrant, and like they have to do all these things to be able to receive the same media attention, right? And I think it's really good to push back against that. I'm like, no, people deserve to be with their families, and they deserve to stay here. So I'm gonna just like wrap up. Again, that was some of the work that we've been doing, and I really encourage people to talk to people tonight and figure out ways that, as communities we can work together, whether it be around a deportation case or a campaign demanding that contracts in with ICE, whatever it may be. I think especially now, even now more than ever, I think it's really important to like reach out to people and figure out ideas and strategize around these issues. Thank you.